Now you see, this is where we really should have some music in the background. Just something in the background.
Oh, we're live. So when were you going to tell me we were live in a pre-show?
It's 2 minutes to, for goodness sake. I think we should have been live ages ago. But there we go. Hello, everybody. No countdown today because I haven't had the chance to render the thing down, and we've been a little bit tied up. But we're getting ourselves sorted out for today's show. The numbers are coming in. We've got some people watching. Hello there, everybody. Welcome along. I'm going to now open up the easy tiger. Open up the chat room for today. So let's just see who's up and about and who's taking part. Oh my word, a whole bunch of people who, this is what happens when I don't pay attention. Okay.
Good morning, Leanne, Michael, Andrew.
Indeed. Leanne D is asking, how's London? Forget London. How's the rest of England? Up north, for example. It is freezing up here. It's absolutely cold. It's freezing. I mean, Andrew's saying it's 35 degrees Celsius. Oh, Fahrenheit. Sorry. Yeah, it's cold, and it's going to head even colder. It's going to get a little bit bad. But anyway,
he won't put anything on. I say he's got naked skin on, and he won't put a coat on.
I'm a man. I'm a man, and I don't need second layers. And I've got heat. I've got central heating, which is heating up. So there you go. Hello there, Matt. How are you, sir?
San Diego, and I am freezing to death despite it looking like that outside.
Same here. It's been really nice here as well. And yeah, it's
so what is it? 70 there, Matt? 70 degrees Fahrenheit there? Come on.
I think so, but we're just frigid. No, but I think it's just the issue is it gets it actually does stay a little on the warm side during the day. It gets to be like 55 to 60, which is tolerable with a leather jacket and a lot of layers for a San Diegan. But then it just, the way my apartment is, like, I get back here and I'm like, I'm so cold, I can't do anything. So I'm going to go to sleep. Then I wake up in the morning and I'm like, okay, I'm freezing. I put on all these layers to go outside to get a cup of coffee, and it's like bright and sunny out and warm. I think it's just confusing. Inside of my house. It's just always the opposite of what I want it to be.
Yeah, that's pretty much how it is here as well. It's so confusing. I mean, I was driving to do the hangout, and the sun's streaming in through my eyes, and inside the car because it's nicely warm inside the car. And then you step outside the car, and then grilled cheese. Okay. I need a cup of tea. Chill breeze coming out, and next thing you know, chicken's done. It's very cold. It's very it's, as we say here in the north, a bit nipply out. So there we go. Right. Hello there, everybody on the chat room. Thank you very much indeed for joining in, and hopefully you've got plenty of questions for our guests today. Welcome to Talkin Comic-Con, a cup of tea with an Englishman in San Diego. My name's Len Sultana, and each and every week we talk about Comic-Con, con culture, all the bits and pieces that are happening and things that you can see at these events, and also some amazing guests, which we have two of here on our show. Number one is my regular partner in crime. We have Alyssa Franks from the Friends of Comic-Con Forum. Hello, Alyssa. How's things with you?
Oh, normal. It's up and down. It's snowing out, just because we're talking about weather, so why not? Olympics are still happening. Hopefully they'll get done with soon. Little under the...
I thought the closing ceremony had been and gone.
Well, it may have been for time changes, but it isn't happened here yet. So there you go. But I could be wrong. I thought it was happening tonight, but that would
I think everything happens on West Coast American time. Everything else doesn't matter.
Right. That's kind of what I feel about East Coast time, but there you go. So looking forward to, I've been doing a lot of planning for my spring trip with both San Diego Comic Fest and Silicon Valley Comic Fest. Really looking forward to both of those. Looks like I'm going to be able to spend 4 or 5 days in the Big Sur area. If anybody wants to come and visit me, you're welcome. I got a wonderful campsite.
My Sunday best. So I get all my hair tips from Leonard.
Well, you know what? I'm actually quite grateful that either you've updated your phone or you've updated the internet, because before, when we've spoken to you before, it's been a little. It's been very kind of static, but we've got a nice clear picture of you. We can finally see you in your full glory. Matt Dunford, everybody, welcome along.
Oh, wow. Just little old me. Hey.
Yes, little old you. How you doing, Matt?
I am doing just delightful. I've feeling like I've bitten off a little more than I can chew, just because I have a lot of events coming up, and just as of recently, they announced me as the host of Club Cosplay, which is going to be the after party, well, the unofficial after party at WonderCon, happening on March 23rd. So yeah, because I inadvertently got into cosplay and just throwing together some very dorky costumes, and some people decided that they like it and that my stuff is funny, and next thing you know, I'm the host of the most prolific cosplay nightclub on the planet. So
if anybody follows Matt on Instagram, you know exactly A, how pretty he knows he is, and B, what his cosplay is like. So yeah, it's I understand why they've asked you. It makes sense.
So I'm just getting some spending my days rehearsing some stuff down to make sure I put on a good act and make sure that everything is done well, because I will be performing in front of several thousand people, and yeah, it's gonna be a good night. I always have fun at Club Cosplay. It's taken a little hiatus for the time being, because there have been some other clubs that do the similar thing, and they wanted to let those, they didn't want to step on anyone else's toes for the time being, so they just like let the other clubs do their thing, and then when there's a void in the clubs, it's like bam, hit them in the back. So they're doing that, and then on top of that, that's what I got going on next month, and then the month after, I think there's this little event called San Diego Comic Fest, which will be coming back for its 6th year. I think that's pretty cool.
Indeed. You've been a busy boy, and not only that, but with the guests involved, it's quite impressive as well. I mean, I think first things first, I know that we kind of introduced you there, but some people on the Hangout might not actually know who you are and what your relationship with San Diego Comic Fest is. Introduce yourself. Tell if you were going to do that first paragraph or two in Wikipedia, how would it read? There you go.
All right. This was edited by a 19-year-old intern who Matt Dunford doesn't pay. But Matt Dunford has forced me to say that he has often been called the world's youngest comic book historian. He had a background serving as a PhD committee candidate for the world's first degree in superheroology. That's where I got my start at UC Santa Barbara. I was like, wow, I can't believe I'm asked to be on this. It's like, oh, this is cool. I don't even have my bachelor's yet. And then I went on to become an editor for a comic book publishing house called Semantic Publishing, which later became Keyleaf Comics. And then from there, I got involved with a comic book education studio here in San Diego called Little Fish Comic Book Studio. And I, helped out there until they appointed me president of the studio. And then, I've always been a very big, very big passionate comic guy, as you can tell from the loads and loads of hardcovers on my wall, and those are just my reading copies. But I've always been a very big comic fan, and so anyone around the SoCal area knows that I will literally go to every single event that's going on in Southern California. It's often been said that if you're doing an event in Southern California and Matt Dunford isn't there, then it's not worth going to.
Oh. Thank God you're here, Captain Ego.
Oh yeah. So, okay, so it's the right place to be, but because I have to hit cons and events and art galleries and everything, and I don't know, I have this insane fear of missing out, so I'm always in the right place to be. So I got involved with San Diego Comic Fest. It first appeared in 2012 as the brainchild of Comic-Con founders Mike Towery and Richard Alf. They wanted to bring back the original feel of Comic-Con in the 1970s, because I don't know if you can tell, but Comic-Con's it's a little bigger than it used to be back in 1969. Back when it was California's Golden State Comic Book Convention. Original name. I still think they should bring it back. But they wanted the small and intimate environment where you could hang out with these legendary comic book creators. And they said, well, why don't we try it jab at bringing that back. The first 2 years, I went as an attendee, and it was kind of off to a rough start, like a lot of fresh conventions. But
every time I saw bits and pieces about that convention, it looked very kind of like printed on an A4 flyer and just kind of really lo-fi.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking to myself, there's a good convention here. It just needs to be brought out. The idea is good, but it just needs a little more proper execution. But I became involved with Comic Fest when I was working with this guy who shall just be renamed Lord Voldemort. And so he got me involved with him because I was working as his assistant at the time. And I came in. He would do pretty minimal work, just try to get paid for it, despite the fact that it's a non-profit and they don't pay you for volunteer meetings. And then I would start contributing things, bringing in guests, getting more active with the community, talking to the local retailers, talking to local artists, local writers, just local creators, and trying to bring it in and make it better. And I would attend the meetings and say, well, you can do this better, you can do this better, and just saying about this. And then eventually they distanced themselves.
I'm listening to you.
Yeah, they distance themselves from Lord Voldemort after they realized he's a bit of a con man and actually has a reputation for being a con man in the comic book community. But they said, you know what, why don't you stick around? We really like you. And then I helped out for, another year, helping to improve the convention. And by the fourth year, the third year actually was like, okay, it's a little better. You're getting there. And by the fourth year, I think I had told everyone, this is the year where Comic Fest finally became the convention that it needed to be. And I was just so happy with how it turned out. And then after that, they decided to appoint me the chairman. And I'm like, you really want me being like the second in command of this convention? You're taking a pretty big risk here, but okay, add more to the ego. And then I decided, all right, I need to go to a media onslaught. And then from there, I appeared on this show called Englishman in San Diego. That was my first act as chairman. And from there, it was just about the best reviewed convention on Earth, and I attribute all of the success of San Diego Comic Fest to that single appearance on an Englishman in San Diego podcast.
You're very sweet.
It wasn't the podcast. It was the guest.
Yes.
Let's be fair. Come on.
I'm just trying to be humble.
So you became the chairman in the fifth year, Matt, just to be clear.
Mm-hmm.
In the fifth year? Okay, is when
our convention was about a year ago, and
okay.
A year and a week actually, where we did the 100th centennial celebration of Jack Kirby, as we called it. So we brought in a lot of people who had the pleasure of working with Jack Kirby, from Mark Evanier, Steve Sherman, Mike Royer, and all these people came forward to pay tribute to Jack Kirby. And we had this big, wonderful Kirby Cafe set up for him with some Jack Kirby-inspired cocktails. And we had these just wonderful lectures from Mark Evanier and Arlen Schumer and all these comic book historians coming forward, talking about their experience with Jack Kirby. And it was just absolutely phenomenal. The biggest issue that people were complaining about at the convention was there's too many good things to do at once. And I think that's a pretty good problem to have.
Yes.
Did you manage to see any of it? Because no doubt you were running around like a headless chicken.
Yeah, I was having to put out fires left and right, making sure that things were going smoothly. I was like, there's an issue here in the parking lot. Oh my God, there's a tow truck. Oh, okay. Oh, it's just someone stuck in the mud because they decided to park in the grass when it was raining and there's like, overflow, but things were handled properly. I just wanted to make sure that people weren't getting towed. I was making sure that panels were not having any technical issues, that everyone, like certain guests, were not feuding with each other. But eventually, guests that I thought would feud with each other actually ended up making up and becoming friends and going to dinner at the end of the night. I was like, oh, that's really nice. So yeah, we actually ended up to settling some. We had a lot of beefs at Comic Fest that were squashed, and they said, let's just settle it and come together for our love of comics, our love of Kirby. I'm sorry I said that. I'm sorry I got offended by that, and it was so great.
That's cool. I mean, the one thing that I kind of spotted about studying the guest list last year and studying the guest list this year, and it kind of does reflect on your love of classic comics and the legacy of comics. There's some real icons when it comes to your guest lists. I mean, I think the first thing I wanted to ask is, how did you get to invite these people along? And number two, do you also see the Comic Fest evolving to embrace newer talent? I don't know if you kind of get where I'm going with the questions.
Well, yes, we do want to embrace newer talent, but the thing is, you have to look at the main mission of the convention, that it is one that was kind of like intended for the older crowd, the people to celebrate comic conventions of the past. So when inviting guests, I have to think it just can't be ones that a couple people knew from back in the day. I like to invite guests that are actually quite legendary, but still active working. So it's the best of both worlds. So that's something that a younger crowd can resonate with, but it still echoes back to, you know, having fans in older generations. So when we look at our guests, say for example, we decided to invite Karen Berger as our guest of honor, but well, actually, because this year we are celebrating 200 years of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, the first guest we decided to reach out to was Bernie Wrightson, because he did the best depiction of Frankenstein ever, in my opinion. But then he suffered a stroke. Then his wife said there's not going to be any conventions for him. And then the brain hemorrhage a month later, and Bernie sadly passed away. So that left us with a hole to fill. But since we are celebrating Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, we thought, you know what, why don't we celebrate with a female guest of honor, but someone who is very prolific in comics, someone who we really feel is very deserving of more attention. And Mike, the head of the convention, said, well, why don't we try to get Karen Berger? And that is a brilliant idea. I mean, it's a bit of a long shot because Karen Berger is so definitive in helping to establish the careers of so many wonderful creators throughout the generations, and helping to help lead the British invasion over at DC in the middle late 80s. So Mike Towery reached out to Paul Levitz, who put us in touch with Karen Berger, and Karen said yes. And this was shortly after we had just wrapped up Comic Fest, and she said, wow, and I am blown away by that. And now she's off at Dark Horse doing Berger books. And I think that's just, it's going to be so great. We're going to get a lot of wonderful stories out of her. She was a guest at San Diego Comic-Con last year, and that's we actually met in person at Karen Berger's Spotlight panel. And so just getting to talk with her and hearing her talk is like, oh, wow. And we get to have her in a small, intimate setting. That's really cool. And
what I really love about Karen Berger is that she talks so humbly. Like, oh, I just fell into this, and I just kind of, I didn't really know what I was, more a literary person, and I just kind of fell into. And next thing you know, she's
editor-in-chief when you were 26.
Yeah, and then she just rattles off this resume of all this stuff that she's done and all this talent that she's brought out, and you just go.
Yeah, I mean, people think I have a lot of power. I had a lot of power at age 30, but like, you look at what Karen Berger had.
It's jaw-dropping.
Yeah, it is jaw-dropping. But, you know, despite what people say about this convention, I'm not just turning it into Dunford Con. I'm not just inviting guests that I want at the convention, because I want guests that suit the convention to make it very obvious. Otherwise, it would just be a guest list of Matt Dunford, Matt Dunford, Matt Dunford. And in as much as I would like that, I'm not going to turn this into San Diego Dunford Fest. I need to make this right and suit the theme that we have and suit the convention for what we have. So other guests that we've involved. Last night, we just announced that Mr. Steve Niles is coming on board, since we are having a very strong emphasis on horror, and particularly Frankenstein. Steve is coming through as he was the last guy to work with Bernie Wrightson. So we do want to plan a Bernie Wrightson tribute panel. So there will be a lot of creators talking about their experiences with Bernie and Frankenstein. And then he is wrapping up that final Frankenstein book. And Kelly Jones is doing the last issue, since Bernie's untimely passing got in the way. But we're happy to have him, because Niles, if you've ever heard him talk about horror fiction, he's pretty genius when it comes to horror fiction, and that is just awesome. I was just at an IDW comic art gallery panel listening to him talk, and it's like, wow, he's talking with scientists about vampire epidemics, and it's like, his talk sounds more scientific than the scientists. So that was really cool. And other guests that we have involved, Boris Karloff's daughter, Sarah Karloff, will be joining us for the Frankenstein celebration as well. And so I think that's really cool that we are having the, you know, daughter of Frankenstein join us at this convention. It was kind of a far reach, but we got her on board, and she's happy to be involved, because what I'm thinking is it's the 200th anniversary of Frankenstein, and I feel like no one else is going with that theme this year. It's like there's all these other conventions going on, and it's like no one's going to make notice of it. So I figured, well, why not? We'll do it. And another guest that we are happy to have on board is Leslie Klinger, who has done the new book, The Annotated Frankenstein. Previously, like the Annotated Sandman, the upcoming Annotated Watchmen. It's just like all this like English major detail upon detail upon detail in the cracks that you had not noticed about stories before when you were going with them. So Leslie Klinger is, yeah, you can get a lot out of him. So it's like, I'm really, really happy for that. And then we do have other folks coming on by, Mr. David Scroggie, who is the Vice President of Publishing at Dark Horse, who has just, you know, recently announced his retirement. You know, he wasn't retired when we invited him, but, you know, he was also one of those guys who was like a founding uncle to the original San Diego Comic-Con. And he was there in that group of teenagers that helped start the convention. And we've always been trying to get Scroggie out for it, but he's always been busy at New York Toy Fair and the busy life of promoting toys and comics and whatnot. But we finally lined up on a weekend where there were not 12 billion other things to do. And so now we're happy to have Mr. Scroggie on board for it and have him talk about his prolific career there. And then
one of the things that I'm really, I just took a look at your website today, and that I'm really enjoying is that you also have a 50-year tribute to the Yellow Submarine and the Prisoner.
Oh, yes.
And which I, you know, having seen Yellow Submarine, you know, in theaters, like I absolutely am loving that. The other thing was your mock trial idea.
Oh yeah, we love the Legal Geeks.
Are you? Do you have the same judge, or is there a different judge this year?
I think we may have a different judge this year. I do like how the Legal Geeks try to mix it up with things every year, because I mean, it's like that mock trial, every time we do it, it's always just packed as can be. I mean, a couple years ago, 2 years ago, we did the trial of the Winter Soldier, and we said, is like, should he be held as criminally insane for his acts, or should he be held perfectly liable? Or in the last year, since we were doing a 25th anniversary of the X-Men cartoon, we had the Legal Geeks proposed, are the Sentinels justified in preemptive strikes on mutants to attack them before they attack us?
In fact, really interesting topics, and there is clearly no right or wrong in either of these things. And I think what I like about, and what attracted me so much to San Diego Comic Fest, which is why I want to actually fly across country to come and see it, is because it is so yes, DuffyCon. Because it is so diverse, and you've got the sci-fi writers, and you've got the focus on Yellow Submarine, for example, and Frankenstein, and comics, and, you know, doing the mock trial. It seems like a lot of conventions are really kind of getting highly focused into comics or fandoms. And you're really keeping it broad, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, we just don't want to do one thing, because one thing ends up just getting really, it gets kind of stale. You want to have a mix of things, because not everyone is going to be into the same thing. So it's like we just did like comics. People would get bored of that. You got to mix it up. So we do incorporate film. We do incorporate science fiction, because as much as people say about the original, about, you know, San Diego Comic-Con, and they always want to trash talk on Comic-Con, it's like, oh, they're corporate sellouts and they do this, they only care about movies. It's like, no, they very much care about comics. They care about, you know, the comic industry. They care about establishing talent and, you know, rewarding talent. And they said, oh, they're sellouts. It's like, oh no, you talk about the Salt Lake City thing, Salt Lake, who, you know,
yeah, really,
is a convention that emphasizes on $200 celebrity autographs. Really, 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 and they say, oh no, San Comic-Con International, they're trying to squash the big guys. Like, I think Salt Lake makes a lot more money than San Diego does, and they were kind of in the wrong. And so, like, you know, I defend San Diego Comic-Con because they've been nothing but nice to us, and they've been, you know, they are still passionate. And from the start of when it was California's Golden State Comic Convention in 1969, It always had an emphasis on comics. It always had an emphasis on science fiction, and it always had an emphasis on film. These three elements were there. So for those who said that Hollywood doesn't have a place in Comic-Con, I beg to differ. It has been there since the start 50 years ago.
From year one. I mean, wasn't the second year special guest Hitchcock, I think? And
Or something like that. I know it was a very prolific guest. I mean, I don't have every single. So as hard as it is to believe, I don't have every single guest list memorized. I see award nominees. I do have those memorized. I got those down.
I mean, we've got a couple of people who are asking about last year's content, because it really was just exciting stuff, as Alyssa's saying. And I think Dan Berry's actually pulled up the link for the YouTube video for the 2017 trial.
Okay, cool.
I mean, one thing that a lot of people, I mean, he's also talking about he's attending Comic Fest as an Englishman in San Diego representative, and he's hoping to film a lot of the content. Are you intending to film it for yourself as well, or can we can we film as much as we can?
You can film as much as you want. Anybody can do it. You can film as much as you want, and then you put it on YouTube, and then we can sue you, and then we can take the money.
Yay!
Yeah, take pictures, like film as much as you want. I don't care. Go for it. I mean, sure, we have like an official crew, but sometimes they may miss something because they'll be at one panel. They can't record everything. But yeah, I encourage everyone to go there. And plus, sometimes it takes a while for us to get our stuff up. So, I mean, go to Hall. Dan Barry also, helps out with Hall H podcast, and they recorded a lot of the stuff. So Hall H has pretty much a whole bunch of videos from last year. So if you want to check those out, check them out. I mean, something like that, but you're just giving away content for free.
It's handy when you've got.
What are you gonna do? Go back in time and go to Comic Fest and make us charge you for a ticket? I mean, just do it. Just enjoy it. It's already done.
It's handy when you've got sites like us advertising for you.
Oh yeah. I mean, but it could be almost as good as Matt Dunford, always advertising for everything.
Excellent. If you have any questions for Matt, do jump in on the Q&A. I mean, we've got a couple of people who are really excited about the content that you're announcing. I mean, I'm really, when you talk about the fact that you're saying that you also do celebrate stuff which isn't just comics, stuff that you do celebrate which isn't just comics still has very much the artist in mind. It's not so much just the commercial, the tent pole. It's about some real craft. I think that's what I think a lot of people really enjoy about the content that you put on. It's all about the craft of art, in whatever medium it is. I think that's the thing that most people really latch onto.
Yeah, and because in the end, without art, there would be no comics. There would be no expression of it. I mean, you look around my house. I mean, there's like art on every wall. Look, there's a Carl Barks signed Scrooge McDuck Wanderers of Wonderland over there in a gold lacquered frame. Over on this side, there's Gary Frank and Ian Churchill signed Superman and my growing collection of knock-around sunglasses. There's jazz art. There's Native American art. There's posters on the wall. There's artwork from my friends. There's African art. There's like an Owly Jigglypuff matchup. Look, here's a Tim Sale Batman original. And I mean, over on the wall, movie posters and all this. Hey, look, I have the original art from Conan O'Brien's Flaming Sea, signed by Conan O'Brien and Bruce Timm. Yeah, that's an interesting story of how I obtained that. But and just all around the wall, it's like, I have comics everywhere and all this stuff. I just wish I had time to read them, but I'm too busy taking selfies. That's Wait, did you get that one? That was a good one.
I got that one. I got that one.
But I love the art form, and we would be nothing without art. And surprisingly, one of my biggest woes in life is I actually never learned to draw. I never learned to draw. I learned to edit comics instead. I learned to write stuff, but I learned to talk my head off. But I genuinely love the stuff I do. And I love the arts, and I'm always nurturing artists. And so that's why you always see me off at Little Fish Comic Book Studio helping with these aspiring artists to help promote their craft, help them make their comics better and that sort of thing. Because I learned as a comic editor, your role is you don't make comics, you make comics better. Because if you did a good job, no one will notice you're there. You're the unseen artist. So that's the thing I like. That's the term I liked in that. But
I do have a quick question for you. Are you any prospect of any possibility of getting Brentford again this year as one of the sci-fi authors? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think we could actually try to see if we can make a last minute outreach for that. Since we have we do like to cater to our science fiction fandom as well. I like our selection that we have so far, and of course I think Nancy Kress is a wonderful science fiction guest of honor that we have. And as things go on, I wish I had time to read more science fiction and do that sort of thing, but I tend to be more of the comic book guy because, I won't claim to be as versed in science fiction as I am in my comic book realm of things. There's only so much time that I can really have these days. So it's hard to read every single comic, watch every TV show, attend every comic convention, still while doing my job and doing all this stuff. So
what are you reading right now?
What am I reading right now? Honestly, I won't act like I have read a whole lot because, at the end of the year, I was asked for a top 5 comics list, and I said, well, let's see. I read that Tetris graphic novel by Box Brown. I read that Moby Dick graphic novel by Chabot, and then I was really struggling to find 5 titles that I had read. And then I told my comic professional friends, it finally happened. It finally happened. And they said, yeah, you became one of us. You said you're always going to be the young guy who's always up on reading everything. Guess what? You have now become so busy cultivating the craft that you don't have time for the craft itself.
You're just gonna that's just gonna hang around your neck like a millstone, isn't it?
Yeah,
horrible.
And what's even worse is I keep buying these $100 collected editions all the time. I have them just lying around my room, adding to it. So if you go into this is just my DC shelf. That's my IDW shelf. You go into my room, it's even worse. Here's my Marvel shelf. I mean, what else? It just has $100 collected editions just lying on the floor, and I keep buying them, but I don't have the time to read them.
So your home address is.
It's 619 Dorksville. And then, of course, in the past year, I've gotten back into action figure collecting too, so that's cool. So it's.
I noticed on your Instagram that is taking up some time.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna take my action figures and I'm gonna bring Dr. Zaius with me everywhere. He's my good luck charm. Like kissing a peanut.
Kissing the monkey, not a euphemism. Right.
But,
I mean,
but there are still. I know there's a lot of great content that I wish I could be reading, but it's just a matter of not having the time for it and anything. Because I always feel just that fear of missing out. That something I have to be doing, somewhere I have to be, someone I have to help. Yeah. It just it weighs on you. So I just wish I had that kind of time again.
I'm not able to read as much either, so I totally get where you're coming from with that. I think there's also a little bit of the, I hate to say it, but the ADD-HD thing going on. So how is the preparation for San Diego Comic Fest coming? Are you, when are you going to be releasing your schedule, the programming schedule?
Well, I would like to get the programming schedule out at least a month beforehand, so we have everyone knowing what they are getting involved with. So last year we were finagling things because we had some literally last minute guests who wanted to, we had a last minute guest who wanted to do 4 panels. I'm like, okay, well, now we got to squeeze things. How are we going to finagle this? How are we going to do this? And but upon squeezing him in, we actually found that he actually did deliver the most entertaining panels of the show. And so it was Mr. Arlen Schumer who gave 4 wonderful panels: 25th Batman the Animated Series anniversary, 50 years of Neil Adams in comics, and the Silver Age of comic art, and the Jack Kirby Centennial. And each one of those rooms was packed. And
just out of curiosity, did you manage to get him to shut up at any point over the course of the entire weekend? Because we've had him on this show, and the man can talk.
Man can talk. Hey, Matt, good to see you. It's like, and yeah, it's, you know, everyone's got their stories with Arlen, but you know, when you put him in the lecture room, he is on fire.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I can imagine. I mean, just because I think I can't remember what we were talking about. Alyssa, can you remember? I think we were on about a specific topic, and he just launched into it. And I think it might have even been Jack Kirby. I think it was around the time when he was.
No, I think it was Bill Finger.
Bill Finger
and Batman.
Okay.
And it was a good half an hour before either myself or Alyssa could even just
interrupt.
He was on. Yeah, he was a live wire. I'd love to have seen a panel of his recorded. That would have been cool.
Yeah, I think the Hall H guys may have a couple of them recorded, but yeah, he has some really phenomenal lectures. Now, but you know, we do pride ourselves on programming. Programming is first and foremost, because so many other conventions, well, it's gotten to the thing where you just, at least here in Southern California, you go to a con every weekend. You go and you hang out with your friends. You'll see out-of-town friends more than you see in-town friends, just because you go to cons so much. But we kind of get this whole thing where we forget about going to panels and the content that goes, because we're too busy just, you know, walking the con floor, hanging out, taking, you know, cosplay photos and that sort of thing. But to emphasize the paneling and the importance of paneling, so we just have to bring together all these legendary figures, bringing them in and talk about stuff. And I really love these panels, like, say, for example, like the Arlen Schumer panel. I like to think I'm a very versed comic book guy, because, I mean, I'll attend a lot of panels and say, yep, I know this. But with Arlen, I was like, oh, I actually didn't know that. I didn't realize that. And so for me, as, you know, well-read as I am, to have that kind of come in, it's like, oh, that's cool. Because I think one motto of every effective teacher should give you a life lesson you walk away from at least once. If you learn that one thing from a lecture, then it's worth it. And if it sticks with you, and we want our lectures to stick with people, we want our panels to stick with people, we want it to be a memorable experience. We want you to learn something new. So that's why we bring in folks that are, you know, so legendary and so well versed in this craft, and we just want to entertain you and inform you and have you have a good time.
Speaking of that, any perspective panels with Ron Suckovich? Is he?
Rob Salkovich will be returning for another appearance. Nice. We're always happy to have Rob on board, because he's a really cool guy. I really like his book. It's one of the few books I actually did make the time to read, and it's really, you know, it was really cool to have him around. That this guy is so prolific in writing for IBC2 and writing for Forbes, and you know, you just get to write on pop culture stuff for a living. Man, I wish I could do that. I mean, I do it for free. I don't get paid for it.
Well, he also has the interesting panels. I particularly liked his panel with David Glenzer last year. That was very interesting. And plus, he has this way of putting together statistics and details, which is really enlightening about pop culture. So he just adds a whole nother level to it, just like a lot of your other panels do. Which is to
clarify as well, Alyssa does have a bit of a crush.
I mean, who doesn't have a crush on Salk?
Something
Sorry,
I want.
Don't let Eunice know that. She'll fight you over it. But yeah, I think Salkovich is just, you know, really one of those guys who, I mean, when I'm at work, I should be doing some research stuff, but I can't help but just go to Salkovich's articles that he puts up on Forbes every morning, and they're just really well done, really well informed, and he just, you know, talks in such wonderful detail. I think my favorite article on him that he did was the, you know, downfall of Loot Crate, when he opens up the article in such a way that said, the first sign of a business going under is when they no longer offer snacks in the snack rooms, and there are no longer any snacks in the snack rooms at Loot Crate. And I was like, oh, Rob actually kind of just confirmed my suspicions, like, hey, let's Loot Crate, watch my unboxing video. Yay, it's junk that you would get for free at a Comic-Con and throw away. And I'm like, that's not a sustainable business model, because eventually people will realize that the stuff isn't very good. You can go to a store and choose to buy your own stuff instead of just having stuff surprise you and kind of let you down. But, you know, Rob did an article on that and how Loot Crate kind of just went up and then, yeah. So I do like the business aspect side of things, because you do have to learn business aspect side of things and what works and what doesn't work. And I try not to step too high and climb too high, and I don't want to fall far. I want to deliver every single time, and I want to improve every single time, because I think every convention experience that you do should be better than the last. And so I need to keep improving and keep improving. And I know I've got some like obstacles to climb over, but I'm sure that I can make it happen.
He came on the Hangout to talk about the legal issues with San Diego Comic-Con, Comic-Con International, and the level of detail was just impressive, and it was just.
I really gotta watch that one, because he gave me credit for he actually gave me some props for the piece I wrote on mine, but I haven't heard his whole spiel on it, so I'd love to hear that.
Yeah, very, very cool. Okay, I mean, the one thing I wanted to talk about as well, I mean, I think I kind of touched on it with an earlier question about the bringing in of new blood and celebrating new talent coming in. What's networking like at Comic Fest? I mean, do you have any networking panels or areas where you've got all this wealth of established talent that can be tapped, this resource? Do you have a networking chain involved?
Honestly, we don't have a set networking thing, but because the environment is so intimate, everyone bumps into each other. You'll see your name, and I was like, "Oh, you're him," and it's like, "I'm me," and like, "I love your thing," and "Oh, I see you too," and it's just like everybody networks with everybody. You have people who've never met each other that know her by reputation, and somehow they just end up being friends. It's just it's pretty cool.
If I could just say, so I was thinking about not staying at the Town and Country, and one of my friends, very close friends, said to me, "Oh no, you have to stay at the Town and Country. There's parties. You're going to really enjoy the parties." Yeah. So there's, while there may not be an official networking, it certainly seems as though that there will be enough events happening after con hours to to network.
You go there and start doing things like hanging out at the restaurants there, or walking to the mall across the street. You're going to be running into everyone at the convention, and it's nice because you can't help but network. And honestly, it's better to do it that way instead of just like having, "Oh, well, I do this, and it's like those formal networking things. I don't think they work well. But when you do friendly networking thing, just hanging out as friends, you do it like that. I mean, I've never done like formal networking thing that are just all ego stroking matches, because I mean, you get enough from that of me anyway. So like, just to do it in a friendly setting is always how I've done it. Yes. I always believe in befriending these comic creators. Just typically I just will take my books to get them signed at conventions and just say, oh, like how their work has affected me, why I enjoy it so much, why it's so important to me. I think that is the most important thing of all, just to say that, first and foremost, that I am a fan. I'm not just some suck up. I really legitimately enjoy your work. And if I don't enjoy your work, I mean, like, why am I here? So, and it's just those little things. Just know that I am reading your books. I am supporting your work. And just like you'll eventually start seeing me around at every single convention. So once again, it's like, you can't get away.
When I'm planning on, speaking of seeing you at every convention, I'm planning on moving to San Diego in August. So I may see you a bit more in August. But can you give us any hints as to what the specialty cocktails will be in the Frankenstein Lounge during San Diego Comic Fest? Do we have any hints? Are there going to be any?
Well, you might see a nice. Oh, here, I'll give you a nice hint. You might see a nice variation on the Corpse Reviver.
Ooh, that sounds interesting.
Fair enough.
Frankenstein.
I'm going to dive back into the questions on the Q&A. I'm going to get away from you guys enjoying yourself way too much, and we're not going to really be able to help on that. But anyway, a couple of people saying they're really enthusiastic hearing about the event from the show, and so like really getting jazzed about it. Super catchy. Now I'm trying to convince my boyfriend to go out to San Diego Comic Fest. So looking forward to that. Michael P is asking just how fixed the programming is so far, and is it too late to add a fan panel at Comic Fest, and how would they
I'm
best
always open to suggestions. Nothing is set in stone right now. I mean, we only just have discussions of what we want going on, but nothing has been solidified. So if you want to, send something my way, I'm all ears.
Can I just say it will be about James Corey and the Expanse on the this
Yeah, I kind of saw that. I saw that coming as well.
Oh, totally, absolutely. We're which kind of fits right into the sci-fi, theory, programming track that you've got going. So I think it would work. I'm for it. And plus, he might ask me to be on the panel too. So there you go. Fingers crossed.
Okay, yeah, I'm open to suggestions. I'm happy to hear it. It's just like I want to entertain guests and make sure they're entertained. So just run things by me. I'll run it by the boss, and I'll see what I can do.
Well, I'm sure.
In that case, what you really need then is to interview Karen Berger. You need someone who's well versed on the British invasion. So what I suspect you may require a panel host who's done a panel on the British invasion. I don't know. We may have to spitball some names.
He's looking for a plane flight, though. I will say. Unfortunately.
Okay, I'll sleep on your couch, Matt. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Okay. Moving on, I think is time. Yes, it is time.
So, well, I mean, where is the best place for people to find out about the latest information? Like you say, there's still stuff to be announced. Where's the best place to find out the latest up-to-date information about? The
latest updates for information, just check us out on Facebook at San Diego Comic Fest. We have a page there, we have a group there, and you can see all of the latest updates that are going. And just be warned, our social media page is pretty snarky with the dumb jokes. I don't know who they've got running the page nowadays, but he's a dork.
Mentioning no names, pointing no fingers. Fair enough. Oh, Dan Berry says apparently I can host the panel by Skype. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, right, and we're moving on. Okay, so that's the social media. Obviously, everyone's really excited about this. I mean, Alyssa is excited. Dan's excited about this. And yeah, and I'm really looking forward to seeing some more of the videos from this. I'm hoping that someone will be able to live stream. I'm hoping that we'll also possibly get either any of the guys that are going to kind of do a live report from the show as well, because I'd like to see it. I'd like to see the layout. I'd like to actually look forward to it.
Oh yeah, I think so as well. I really want to make sure this all works, and we're going to be hard at work designing a Frankenstein cafe. So we've got some very talented prop designers and very talented artists coming up with the Frankenstein cafe. And with that all coming into perspective, I'm getting really excited about the look of that. So we're originally at the first San Diego Comic Fest, we did a tribute to Cafe Frankenstein, which was done by one of the original guys who exhibited at San Diego Comic-Con. That was in an area called Oceanside, a little north of San Diego. And we decided to bring it back. And now that we're 200th anniversary of Frankenstein, it's like, okay, let's go really big on the Frankenstein Cafe this time around.
Nice. I mean, I'm looking through the guest list. There's a couple in there that I'm hoping that I get Dan Berry to go and check out, especially the Trina Robbins. If there's any panel with Trina Robbins on.
Oh yeah, Trina is awesome. I
love that woman to death.
Her and Steve Lealoa, they are just awesome. I just love whenever they come into town. They're just so knowledgeable, and she is so sweet, and she is so funny. And just yeah, I'm really looking forward to having them back. Mr. Panels on Wonder Woman are just wow, they are so eye-opening.
Yeah, that I'm like I say, I think it was that panel and the Karen Berger panel, which I'm up for looking forward to see. If anything, also because I think this is definitely the year of Karen Berger. With, like I say, with Berger Books, I do think that she's going to get the Hall of Fame nod this time round. Touch wood, hope that it all happens for her at the Eisners. No, I think basically, I think anything where we can get Karen Berger on tape is just something else. Because, like I say, she's just got so many stories and just so much history, and just the amount of people that she's managed to usher into the industry is just amazing. There we go. Excellent stuff. Matt, it's been a pleasure talking to you, as always. Thank you so much indeed for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. I was happy to be here.
Yeah. Where can people follow you online?
Where can you follow me online? Hit me up on Facebook, just at Matt Dunford, MattDunford. You can also find me on Instagram. There will be a lot of selfies of me and the fat dog around my office. So if you like English bulldogs, it's the place for you. I'm not on Twitter very often, but I am on Vivo right now, so I'll be using that for the 2 weeks until people stop using it. So, okay. Or whatever it's called.
Yeah, yeah. I've been kind of pushing that the last 24 hours as well, which is probably about the lifespan of the whole thing. Yeah, yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Excellent stuff. Well, listen, Matt, thank you very much indeed for coming on. I mean, I don't know if you want to stick around for a little while longer, because we are going to be talking about some other non-Comic Fest topics. But okay. Yeah. I mean, we'll tell you something that I wanted to, because we invited you on last week as well, because we wanted to try and talk about comic books that people could be
listening to my computer.
But like you say, you're not actually reading a great deal at the moment because you've been too busy.
Because I've been too busy.
You see. Yeah. Fair enough. Okay. Right. So in that case, Alyssa, do you want to take on the next topic, which is whichever one you want to go from the script?
Did anybody happen to get to the Image Annual Comic Expo? They apparently they did Image Comics did an expo recently.
I did not get a chance to attend as much as I wanted to, because they released a lot of really good looking books with a lot of really cool teams. Because I'd be going around to a lot of conventions. I'd be talking to all these image creators and, talking, like, seeing if I can get them for guests at Comic Fest. Mm-hmm. And they said, I'd love to, but I'm a little busy on something right now and I can't talk about it. And now that they're actually talking about it, I'm like,
right.
Oh, those are cool.
That's what I was taking a look through. Again, ICB2 had a really nice write-up in that they did on the 21st, so just a couple of days ago, and it was talking. Mark Miller's is doing a book on Miller World. Rick Reminder is doing a book. Todd McFarlane is doing a book. It just, on and on. Of course, there's a new book being put out by Arg. I'm doing the name problem again. We've got Dean Haspel's book.
Really looking forward to Rob Guillory's book. I mean, he was hinting at that when I saw him at Comic-Con, and I was like, oh my god. And he's doing it solo, because I've been waiting ever since whenever, because if you can tell by the huge volumes right there, it's like I am a huge Chew fan, and I mean, I've been a fan since issue 1. I just picked up the first issue on the fly. I'm like, okay, I'll pick it up. The next thing I know, it's a $900 book. I'm like, oh okay. Okay.
So
there's a couple of the books. I mean, I watched as much as I could on Twitch, because they live streamed a number of the announcements. I mean, there were a couple of the books which I'm interested in. Certainly Dead Rabbit by Jerry Duggan and John McCrae, if anything, because John McCrae's art is just incredible. I've always been a fan. I'm quite liking the look of Juke Joint as well by T. Franklin and Maria Nugent. But I think that's mostly because I was a fan of Bingo Love. So I'm curious to see how that's going to play out. Yeah, and then there's all the regular titles that they were launching through.
And Kirkman's doing a new book too, Oblivion Song, on March 7th. So I mean, it's just, they seem like they're really on the back. No, I shouldn't say on the back of, but with all of the panels Image had this past year, ECC, the Image 25th Image Founders panel, and the specials they've had on Kirkman's History of Comics. Now to come out with all of these new authors, not just new and innovative authors, I think it really says something about the shifting landscape of the comics industry when you have, you've got Marvel and DC kind of being fairly, I hesitate to say pedestrian because that's not, quite right, but they're not being innovative the same way.
You could say pedestrian, but you could also just use the word capes. They're dealing with the capes. Right. Image are, I think there's like the Bloodstrike title. I think there's also the Spawn title as well. Everything else that Image has announced, it's away from capes as possible, and it's about innovative storytelling and news stories, which I think is where Image have realized that's where its support is. That's where why the fans come to read their books. I think. I don't know if you.
Yeah, because eventually, I it's not like I hate superheroes or anything, as evidenced, behind me, but I'm just really not that excited for what Marvel and DC have been putting out because, it's just very formulaic, and not a lot of the creative teams really excite me. I know there are good teams out there on these books. I'm not saying that every book is bad or whatnot, but just, there's ones that, cater to my liking. And these ones, a lot of them just aren't really hitting it for me because just you have a lot of big events coming out, and then, let's relaunch everything at #1. I think the last
Jaded
I actually read was Siege back in 2010, and then I was just like, I'm kind of done with big events for now. I'm only going to stick to solo characters.
We kind of talked about this last week as well, that the events just don't do it for us anymore.
Hey, it's like Mark Millar said, an event used to be an event.
Right. Did you get to see at Black Comic Book Day a week or two ago? Did you get to see the panel they did? And I listened to most of that panel, and one of the things that really struck me was saying that one of the panelists said that they really appreciate comic book writers who actually read books. Not comic books, but read books. So they've got, they've got some ideas to put on the page, new and innovative ideas that aren't just capes.
Yeah, he made a very good point of that because, like, one thing that I do nowadays a lot, I don't have time to read comics because, I've taken up a more active role in my day job as a historian of World War II and military history. So people are surprised that I can talk your head off about World War II, allowing all these details. It's like, yeah, so that's what I've been doing instead of reading comics. So I can talk your head off about World War II. And it's difficult because I can't really read Captain America comics anymore because I notice like certain historical inaccuracies in the thing. So, I walked out of Dunkirk because I thought it was so poorly done. And just like, no, I can't do it. It's like, and I hate to be that kind of guy because, we've always had that. There's always going to be that one thing that disconnects us from a book, even though it's like the most fictional thing. I remember I was having a discussion with a guy when Game of Thrones had come out very early on, and it's like, wasn't it so awesome when he poured that thing of gold onto his head? And my friend, who's a scientist, like, excuse me, but he throws it in there for 3 seconds. Do you know what temperature gold melts at? Chuck, we were just having a discussion about a guy who flies through the air in red panties. Come on, man. But it's that suspension of disbelief. Everyone has that thing that will take you out of that story because they're like, wait, that's not exactly how it has to work. Aha, I got you. And as nerds, we like being that guy that says the whole thing of like, you did it wrong.
Makes sense. Just go back to Image Comics Expo a little bit. What I actually quite enjoyed is when stuff was streaming from Image Expo and all the books were being announced. What I actually really enjoyed was the fact that the D&C kind of crowd just shut up because these aren't the books they're interested in. They're not interested in anything that's not Superman and Captain America and so like the Spider-Mans and the capes hitting each other. So it kept them quiet for about 6 hours. It was fantastic. It just kind of kept that noise down for a while. So I was excited about that.
Yeah, that is nice to see that enthusiasm where everyone they can just have the creators talk about their books instead of just like woo woo boo boo, because you get that at Comic-Con a lot. People certainly not agreeing with a certain team, and typically the silence at one of those Marvel or DC conventions means that you don't know what to think of it. I remember at the 2005 Marvel panel when they're announcing, all right, and now we're going to do Young Avengers with writer Alan Heinberg from the OC, and we're all like,
huh?
The OC, the teenage romance, the OC, and well, of course, then he shut us up when we read Young Avengers, and it just blew our minds. It's like, this is like legit the best Avengers story ever. And it's like, that he's playing around with such a wonderful toolbox. So it's sometimes the silence when we go from a place of like not expecting much to like, wow, you blew our minds. So okay, that's cool. And I want my mind to be blown. That's what I want in comics, because it's cool when you can do it with superheroes, but I guess these days it's a little easier when you do it when you build something from the ground up, because you have more room to move.
Makes sense.
I am just trying to put the link up there for that ICV2 article about the Image comics that they announced, so people can have some reference to what we're actually talking about, and get some ideas on books that they may want to start picking up and reading.
Or indeed, you can read the full press release of all the announcements on s05e27.com.
Sorry, Leonard.
Yeah.
Oops. Yes, we do manage 2 different sites. What can I say? So I'm busy trying to move my website over to some managed hosting spot. Speaking of that, I like your new website design, Matt.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
I was surprised by it too. It kind of just hit me out of nowhere. I went to the site and I'm like, hey, the site is different. Cool.
No, it looks better, more in keeping, and easier to find stuff. I think once you backfeed a lot more, more of the information into it, it will be a little bit more user friendly than it was before. It was a little bit bloggy and hard to read.
The old one was still a 2012 model, so it needed some updating. So yeah, we got that on.
Yeah. I was trying not to go there, but yeah, you said it very well yourself. Thank you.
Our old site was old and ratchet, and we needed updates, and now it's better.
Yes. Well, it's getting better. It's getting better. You can do a lot more with it. Anybody know?
Perfect.
Because everything launches at 110%. Right. Any idea why Stan Lee canceled? Anybody have any idea why Stan Lee canceled his Cleveland show?
Did that just come to light?
Yes, that's what Leonard was saying earlier.
And it's not the only one.
I think I have a pretty good idea.
He's 97.
No, it's been some other stuff in the news.
What did we miss? Oh my God.
Does it involve an intern?
No, it doesn't involve an intern. It involves his manager.
Okay.
So as you may have heard, as you may have not heard, there was a little issue with Stan in the media recently, where Stan and his daughter, I guess they called the cops for elder abuse on Stan's manager, Max Anderson. And it turns out that Stan is also missing $300,000 from a check that was fraudulently written in his name, and that someone used $850,000 of his money to buy a Los Angeles area condo. And as the news is implying, it has Max Anderson written all over it. And yeah, to the point where Max actually was trying to break into Stan's house with his lawyer there, and the police were not letting him in. So when you appear somewhere with your lawyer, what does that imply?
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, and then of course the details have come to light about Max Anderson. He has, they start with Stan's manager, Max Anderson, convicted felon who beat his wife and broke his son's arm and spent a year in jail for it, who has actually also been found to forge signatures as well for Stan Lee collectibles. And, you know, I'll keep it professional here and say that, you know, in my 25 years of going to conventions, I think Max Anderson is the person I wish I at least would have met in my time. And now that things are coming to light about Max, let's just say it's karma.
Yeah.
People are kind of realizing the kind of guy he is. And I'm keeping it professional and not even scratching the surface of the surface of the surface of what this guy has done. You think eating your own son is bad? No, he's done worse.
I don't disbelieve that. I remember some of the problems that he was that Desert Wind and that Stan Lee was having with Desert Wind, and also the fact Desert Wind used to manage Stan Lee's signatures, and he eventually got pulled.
In time, a couple months before Stan Lee Collectibles happened, that Stan used to sign autographs at conventions for free, and then Mr. Anderson comes in, and now it's like $250.
Right. Well, I mean, I got a signature from Stan Lee in the $75 range when he was doing Through Desert Wind. I think it was at 2013, 2011 at the Desert Wind Comics booth, which, you know, so it was really kind of low key compared to what it is now. You know, how they did it through Stan Lee Collectibles. Now, regardless, it doesn't surprise me that there was something going on there. So there was one of the other things that I had heard was that when there was this allegation of sexual harassment by his caretakers in London against Stan Lee, there was also a counter allegation that there was a check taken, that there was some checks taken for about $350,000 or $500,000. So it stands to reason that the people who made those sexual harassment allegations did not take those checks, and Max Anderson did it. Are you?
I believe so. And then, of course, like there's another thing that came to light. I was having a discussion with Mike Wellman, who runs the Comic Bug, and Mike would always do the Comic Bug Pavilion, which is like the artist alley at Stan Lee's Comic-Con. He recently made the announcement that he will no longer be doing the Comic Bug Pavilion at Stan Lee's Comic-Con due to some disagreements with Max Anderson. He has said, you know, I love the people at Comic-Con, but Max Anderson has broken his promises for the last time. What Stan Lee Collectibles apparently did is for the retail store that sells the most tickets to Stan Lee's Comic-Con will be granted a Stan Lee signing appearance at their store. Mike won that contest 2 years in a row. And Max Anderson said, we have no plans to deliver. 2 years in a row, they won. And they said, we have no plans to deliver. So Mike does not hate the Comic-Con folks at all, but it's a disagreement with Stan's manager, and he is just, you know, keeping it professional because Max certainly is not.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Well, I am glad that it isn't, you know, just to take a step back, I am glad that it isn't Stan Lee's health. And that eventually we may end up seeing him back coming to conventions again. You know, once things come through, because that, of course, was was all of our first thoughts was it was his leaving that convention was due to the fact that he was, as Leonard pointed out so aptly, 97. So
yeah, but you know, there's been let's just hope that Stan gets new management soon. That's the thing.
Yes.
Yeah,
exactly. You want to take the next one, Leonard?
Sure. I think I'll probably take the next two, actually, because I know that I'm having one or two issues with my mic, so please do let me know if that is the case.
Yes.
Especially if you are a Supernatural fan. The first one I want to take on is something that got released via an email newsletter that went out to Creation Entertainment fans. These are the people that do very specific conventions regarding television shows, Apparently, I'm a Dalek. Great. Okay, so I'll see how it goes. Basically, this was they are cancelling all the supernatural cons, or the vast majority of supernatural cons for 2019. That the only the events that they've arranged for 2018, that's about it. Basically, these are going to be the last ones for Montreal, for Seattle, for Pittsburgh, Minneapolis, Charlotte, Cleveland, and also Birmingham here in the UK. Apparently, I've got to say exterminate just once. Okay, there we go. That's for all the Doctor Who fans. Apparently, it looks like it's more of a streamlining. I don't know how many events this actually leaves, because as far as I'm aware, the supernatural events that Creation put on, I think there's only like another 3 or 4 on the top of this. I do know that, as someone has pointed out, that the show is coming to a close, and the Creation guys do have this nasty habit of sticking with who's actually on a show at a certain time. They don't look at the past cast members. They do get very protective like that. So there you go. That's that event. If you are a Supernatural fan. And the other one that I wanted to cover was Comic-Con Africa, which is a new event which has been arranged by ReedPop as they continue their rollout on an international level. This is going to be huge. It's something that they are intending to make a massive event to attract a world-class group. It's going to be held in South Africa at the Kailami International Convention Center in September. And yeah, they are going to be doing their damnedest to bring the New York Comic-Con experience to South Africa. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting one, and I'm going to pay attention to how they actually develop it. It's something that they're wanting to make a flagship event for ReedPop. So there we go.
You are still having problems with your mic. I'm not sure if you've tried the laptop mic and the mic on the external camera. I'm not sure what else you could do.
Yeah.
But the fact that ReedPop is doing another international show is very interesting. I have to say, hats off to them. I'm really looking forward to where they're going and where they're building their brand. I wish I could go and see either ECC, which is happening next weekend. I'm jealous of a lot of my friends who are going to see that one. Are you going to that one, Matt?
No, I'm afraid to skip out this time around. I've got too much on my plate. I really should be rehearsing the performances. So, as much as I'd like to go, I don't want to go up and spend the money on flight and a hotel and then go up there, because I'm freezing here in San Diego right now. And when I went to Seattle last year, that was my first time experiencing sleet. It's like, wait, you can combine rain and snow into this horrible thing. That just helps you with frozenness.
You see, this is exactly why I am so hesitant about San Diego, is because I cannot bear the thought of over 85 degrees weather, heat for weeks on end. It got above 90 degrees 3 days here last year, only 3 days above 90. And so you may dislike sleet, but I really dislike heat. So that's why I'm really concerned about.
These posters move out here for the heat. It's like 105. You're like amateur, and we're walking around.
Yes. You're going to be seeing that.
Temperatures drop below 70, and here we're dying.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm like. That's when I come alive. That's when I actually do it. One of the things that I did hear is that while the Black Panther movie has done phenomenally well at the box office, second MCU release for numbers and all of that sort of stuff, the thing that I heard was that it was selling out all of its showings in Ethiopia's capital, Addis Ababa, for all 5 days of its showing. I thought that was, so it's getting the same kind of reception in Africa, in Ethiopia, as it's getting in the States, which I absolutely love, that it's becoming a worldwide, that it just, that and Wonder Woman, I'm loving the way things are moving in our culture. So anybody have any ideas about why Joss is off of Batgirl? Did you guys hear this?
I have heard. I have not heard details of something.
The official line is that he didn't have a story. The man's been working on this thing for 4 years, and he didn't have a story. So that's it.
That's your story?
That wasn't the coda that I quite enjoyed. What I did quite like was Roxane Gay tweeting, turning around and saying that she has a story. I'll write you your Batgirl film. At which point the talent coordinator for Warner Brothers turned around and said, "Just email me. Let's do this." He just go, "Oh, come on. Let's go. Let's go." When it gets arranged like that.
One of the thoughts that I was thinking is that wouldn't it be really kind of neat if you had a movie about Batgirl that was written by a girl? I don't know. Maybe
the whole thing. Joss has been kind of laying low ever since the revelations that his now ex-wife made.
Yeah,
so, I mean, it's just because I always have this thing with everyone at Comic-Con every year. It's like I line up early for the Joss Whedon panel. I got line up early, and I'm lining up in the brown and yellow hats, and I just tell him he's not bringing back Firefly. Every year you go and y'all ask him, when is Firefly coming back? And he's like, it's not. You got a movie for closure. It's not coming back. But, you can see that the fandom took quite a dip because there was a thing called Whedon Con here around Southern California. And it's not happening anymore. In fact,
really?
Yeah, they canceled it about 2 months prior to it happening when that whole thing with Joss's wife came out. So yeah, it's not it wasn't the best time for Joss, but he came and he did the Justice League touch ups at the end, and you haven't been hearing much from Joss lately.
No.
I mean, it could be worse. He could be Harvey Weinstein, but it's still it's like the whole his wife called him out for saying he's a feminist. He believes in female characters, but he cheats on me all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I went to the Nerd HQ panel not last year before, and I had a great time. And then I think it was about 2 months later that all of this came out, and yeah, that kind of made me feel very bad about me actually attending the panel in the first place. But there we go.
Yeah,
Cool.
So I don't know. It's like maybe Joss will just continue to lay low. I don't know if I would like to see him return to some stuff, but just it's a touchy subject.
Yeah. I wouldn't mind. So, like I said, I'd like to see Roxane Gay. I'd like to see Gail Simone. I'd like them co-writing a Batgirl movie. I'm down with that. So there we go. Right. Speaking of which, can we talk about some Week in TV to start wrapping things up?
Absolutely. The Olympics are closing tonight. We've already gone over that, I know, earlier, but they're doing the closing ceremonies in the East Coast, so no more Olympics. And as a result, we're getting a lot of shows coming back. Walking Dead happens tonight. Ash versus Evil Dead, iZombie, Gotham, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Atlanta, and Designated Survivor are all coming back this week, as is Flash and Black Lightning are returning from their Olympic hiatus. So it's full-fledged. Keep an eye on your schedule. Make sure that they're all up to date and things are recording properly. For a couple, we've got 4 or 5 new shows that are happening this week. McMafia on AMC is happening. It's by all reports a great story with a very good lead actor. If you're interested in some serious stuff, give it a read. Living Biblically is coming on CBS. That could be really bad or really or halfway decent. But it depends on how interesting people are in seeing some of the wackiness that is represented in the Bible actually put into place in everyday life. We'll see how that goes. The one I'm really looking forward to, the mainstream show that I'm really looking forward to, is Good Girls with Christina Hendricks on NBC. It has a real Thelma and Louise feel about it, and I think it could be very fun. Besides Christina Hendricks, again, we're talking about Firefly earlier, that and of other fame too. The other show that's happening, which really looks fun, I'm also really looking forward to, is called Final Space. I'm sure people know about this one. It's a serialized intergalactic space saga about an astronaut named Gary and his adorable planet-destroying friend Mooncake. It's produced by Conan O'Brien and has been around. They've been talking about it for quite a while. That's on TBS. And they've been doing some real quirky shows, like they also did People of Earth and Search Party. So it's got the backing of a network that regularly deals with the quirky stuff. So I'm looking forward to that one. All of those are happening on Monday. We also have one other show with Jeff Daniels as its star on. I forget what channel it's on, but it's dealing with 9/11 and the FBI and CIA. It's another serious show, 8-part show that may be interesting if you like the serious stuff. And that is your week in television.
Excellent stuff. Very quickly to cover the stuff that has been announced this week as well, very quickly, which we do have confirmed dates for Legion, which is going to be released 10 episodes from April the 3rd. We've also got the teaser that came out 2 days ago for Jessica Jones Season 2. That's going to be arriving on Netflix on Thursday, the 8th of March. So looking forward to that. And the most exciting news for me when it came to kind of nerd and geek television is the fact that Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur is getting developed as a TV series by Disney. I am up for this because I'm a big fan of the book, so looking forward to that.
My biggest excitement was April 11th for the season 3 of The Expanse, as Mike P also will chime in momentarily and tell us all about.
There we go. We've also got people on the chat room talking about other stuff that's coming up. We were talking about Stargate Origins last week. Yeah, that's actually worked out very nicely. It's a very tidy little show. 10-minute episodes. You can just kind of get into it and just kind of get in, get out. Don't expect too much when it comes to its production values. But there's a couple of familiar faces in there, and it's okay. You said something there, Matt. Go on.
I said that's a cool idea. 10-minute episodes, just like get them in short bursts. It's like
just in and out. It's very cool. And not only that, but it is available on the StargateCommand.co website, and it's available worldwide, and you just get on there and watch that. You've also got Annihilation, which is going to be hitting cinemas, I believe, in the States this week. Will not be hitting cinemas here in the UK. It's going straight to Netflix. Which I'm shaking my head about because I really wanted to see that thing on a big screen.
Yeah, I think there's some pretty good reviews about it from my friends. They're really liking it. It's just really weird sci-fi that actually well.
It opened this week, and again, it is not in my small town theater, so it's not getting mainstream publicity. They are not pushing it. They don't. I heard that it was because they don't. The theaters, it got bad press reviews, bad reviews on its early press screenings. And that the writer director of the movie didn't make it a big production, didn't fit it into the mold of what the theater, of what the studio thought a big production should be. So therefore they're not going to back it. And that's why it went straight to Netflix, and that's why it isn't getting full on production.
All right, guys, I think since it's on the TV segment, I may have to take my leave right now because I don't have a whole lot of time for TV, so I'm not much in the discussion here, but I want to thank you so much for joining me today. It's
been a pleasure. Thank you very much indeed. We're good wrapping up now anyway, but thank you very much indeed for coming, and it's been a pleasure talking to you, sir. All
right, thank you so much, guys. I'll have you on anytime.
Take care. Matt.
You know what? He held out longer than I thought he was going to do. I wasn't too sure how long he was going to hold on, but there we go. The one other thing that I want to talk about as well, I mean, I know that there was the issue, as Andrew Dickinson is pointing out, Annihilation did get into trouble as the director hadn't actually read the second book, which determines that Natalie Portman's character was Asian, and therefore has been accused of whitewashing the character when he hadn't actually realized what the character was fully about, as it were.
He didn't do it. He was just stupid.
Okay. Fair enough.
I mean, we all could be stupid at times. It does happen.
At least 3 times a day on a regular basis. And the other thing as well, I know that we've got some people talking about Mute. Michael P., don't watch Mute. You will be disappointed. I'm going to watch it tonight. I'm a fan of Duncan Jones. I'm going to give it a go. We'll see how that goes. Yeah, it's not been fun for people who have been waiting for this film to come out. So there we go.
One other brief thing that we didn't talk about in Con News was the amount of studios that WonderCon is getting. They announced they did their floor plan, but they've also got NBC, AMC. They've got a bunch of different studios coming, which to my mind seems a lot more intense than they had in previous years. We probably should be talking about that next week.
We kind of brought it up last week with the amount of, because I mentioned the studios that were coming, and it is a whole raft, especially when it comes to the TV stuff. So yeah, we kind of mentioned it last week. We are going to get fully into WonderCon next week, because hopefully we'll be having, as you may or may not know, if you subscribe to the Toucan blog, or Toucan blog, you'll know that they are rolling out now their 30 days of WonderCon, where they're talking hints and tips about where to go, where to stay, restaurants to go to, how to get there, that kind of thing. Hopefully they're going to be bringing up some stuff when it comes to panels and programming over the course of the next 7 days, but we are going to be talking about WonderCon next week. It's going to be a WonderCon episode, chaps, so keep that in mind. Also, there was a mention earlier on, I think it was Andrew Dickinson that mentioned it, or asked, or was it Andrew English? It was one of the two, talking about London Super Comic-Con and whether I'd heard any news about that the show had been discontinued. As far as I'm aware, that has not been determined yet. The last time I heard any kind of update was around October, November last year. It was still kind of on the possible radar, but purely off the back of the negative press of the last one, who knows? I will do some more research on that, and you never know, we'll try and get some more information. Michael P. has just pointed out and typed a word which has just given a Pavlovian response to me. I just...
Yes.
Apocalypse. Yeah, okay. If this comes up in the next 7 days, by all means, we'll bring it up. Alyssa is shaking her head. No, they're just going to get WonderCon out of the way first, yeah?
I think so. I think so. That's,
okay.
You know.
Right. Okay. It's past. Let's wrap things up. It's another 90-minute episode. Oh, right. Okay. We'll just say thank you very much indeed for Matt for coming on. Do find out more information by checking out the website as well. I'm just going to make sure I get the right address for that, because I always get it wrong, because it is sdcomicfest.org, because I always think it's .com. So do head to sdcomicfest.org for more information. Alyssa, where can people find you online?
The San Diego Comic Fest doesn't have as much information on it now as it did a few days ago. I have to think that they're going to be backfilling information. When you put up a new website, sometimes things don't get parsed right, portioned out right. People can find me.
That wasn't my question.
I don't care. I can ignore you along with the rest of them. Love you, mean it. Smiling. People can find me on Friends of CCI for my Twitter handle. I do have an Instagram handle, although I don't use it as much. You can also find me on my website, which is friendsofcc.com, for both the forum and the blog. Have a nice day. We'll see you next week.
Excellent stuff. For myself, you can find me on all the social medias at Englishman SDCC. You can also find me on Vero, the new one, which we were talking about earlier on, at anenglishmaninsandiego.com. And of course, you can find out about what we're getting up to on all the bits and pieces on the website anenglishmaninsandiego.com. I'm going to be posting a couple of interviews which I recorded at a convention that I attended last weekend on the Patreon page. I'm going to be putting those up nice and exclusive. So do check out patreon.com/EnglishmanSDCC for some exclusive stuff for those people who support the Hangout. And I really appreciate everything that we get in terms of support, in terms of kind words, in terms of donations. We just really appreciate it. Thank you. Right, back again next week. We are going to be talking WonderCon, so please do join us. Emerald City is just around the corner as well, isn't it?
It is. If anybody is going to Emerald City and wants to jump on for 10 minutes, just jump on. You could just do it voice and give us your opinions about what's happening, what's working, what's not working. That would be lovely.
That would be a lot of fun. That'd be good. Excellent stuff. Do take care. Enjoy the rest of your week. I'm now going to go off and, I don't know, hate, watch, mute or something. Okay. Take care, everybody. We'll see you soon.
Bye-bye.